All right. Well, I think we have enough to at least be able to get started here. If people want to start to request to be a speaker, I can bring you up if you have questions. But before we get started, Shane or Don, would you guys like to say anything to get kicked off?
Absolutely. So I just want to say thanks to everyone who's joining. Look forward to your questions. I think, the market's been interesting over the last few days and over the last couple of weeks. And so I'm sure that this is a timely conversation. I think that there's a lot going on in the network, as you've seen by many of our announcements. So I look forward to your questions and being able to answer them. And so with that, Brandon, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. So I'm Brandon. You've seen me on my videos. I'm the HBAR Bull. I'm doing some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, and we have some of our leadership from the HBAR Foundation on here as well. Again, you guys can start to request to speak, and I'll go ahead and bring you on up. But in the meantime, I had an interesting question here, and this can go to Shane or Don. So he says, and this is coming from Telegram, with the rise of interoperability, companies will find themselves needing to tap multiple ecosystems. Is the foundation prepared to cross-fund with other foundations, such as the Ethereum Foundation or the Algorand Foundation?
So thanks for the question, whoever asked it. The answer is yes, we are. In fact, I certainly believe, and I think Don shares the belief, that the world is going to be one of interoperability, even as it relates to DLT, blockchain, crypto. There's precedent here, whether or not, the space likes to look at it. There's certainly precedent in the enterprise. If you think about the various tiers of an application, a database tier, you've had how many different types of databases: DB2, Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, on and on and on. You've had the application layer from various J2EE type application servers to new servers today. You've had front end heterogeneity. You've got cloud, multi-cloud heterogeneity. There's no reason why this would not be a multi-chain world of discrete types of, call them microservices or microchains that do some component calculation really, really efficiently and really, really well. And so we want to open that up. That said, we haven't candidly had the opportunity to collaborate. I know that, we've got some council members who have been working with Algorand and along with Hedera. We've had, some that have taken, grants from Polygon and, are coming to us to say, hey, we want to also build the same thing on Hedera. So it hasn't been the foundation, collaborating with them directly, but rather through a grantee to date. Depending on the opportunity, would certainly be open to doing that and having a discrete set and a specific reason for why we would need to come together and why the two chains, would need to work and be interoperable to solve a real world problem or a real world use case.
All right. Good answer. The next one we have is for Elaine. So, Elaine, if you want to accept that speaker request or request to be a speaker, we can bring you on up. All right. So, Elaine, the question is the HBAR Foundation in talks with exchanges to ensure depositors can participate in network staking?
Yeah, we are.
You want to add some color to that, or just pretty much we are in talks with exchanges to see if we can get some staking rewards for depositors?
We are. Like always, we'll announce when when they're closer to being live or when the opportunity is nearer to being accessible by the community. But yeah, we are.
All right. So again, anybody that wants to come on up can just request to speak, and I'll bring you on up. In the meantime, Zepsi, I think you had some questions that came from Twitter. If you want to go ahead and bring that up.
Hey everybody. So we had a pretty good turnout on the old Twitter front. And one of the main questions that I saw sort of consistently arise was, at the moment, you know, the markets are looking pretty grotesque. And a lot of people are wondering, you know, is there a plan for the HBAR Foundation that's different in the circumstance for a bear market rather than in a bull market? And that question's for either Don or Shane.
So I'll take a stab at answering first. You know, I think that I think the short answer is no. While if you look at what we do as being capital allocators, we certainly want to make sure that we continue to have enough funds to operate. And so where we have things like a hiring and a headcount plan that's fairly conservative, you know, to date, given where we are, we don't think we need to slow down our hiring plan to operate and continue to hire business development folks to do more in building this ecosystem. You know, we think that today we have enough treasury to execute on the plan that we've laid out, you know, $500 million being allocated while it's not all going to get deployed within the year. You know, some of the other things I've seen on Twitter that I think can help answer this is to date, we've received about 2.9 billion of the HBAR that has been allocated towards the 5.35 billion for us. So some of the fuzzy math that has happened, you know, publicly is not accurate. We still, you know, the Hedera Governing Council, you know, we've got a drawdown on that over time, and each quarter we get additional HBAR until we ultimately get all 5.35 billion. So one, it's not in circulation. Number two, the HBAR Foundation doesn't have the full 5.35 billion. And so we want to continue, if we think about what is our mission in growing this ecosystem, we're going to have to continue to give grants in both fiat and HBAR in the smartest way possible. And like a venture capital firm, we try to do as much diligence as we possibly can. Related to the grants, there are already existing milestones and lockup periods. So we believe we've been fairly conservative in the way that we've allocated the capital, and we're going to continue doing that. I think when I look at all of the statistics and key performance indicators for what we're doing, everything is looking very, very healthy and positive. Just take a look at, you know, the DeFi ecosystem, which just a few short months ago really did not exist on Hedera. That is continuing to accelerate. The metaverse continuing to accelerate. ESG and the Sustainable Impact Fund and all the things we're doing there and continuing to do. I mean, look at, you know, we're starting to get branded around that. And so for us, continuing to focus on these four key areas of, you know, crypto economy fund, metaverse fund, payments and fintech, sustainable impact, and then our two, you know, kind of side funds, women in tech fund and the, you know, identity fund. We believe we're doing all of the right things. And so I don't look at where the market is today as an indication of us, other than the fact that, hey, it's not who we are as a company. And I think Jeff Bezos said it. I mean, you guys probably saw that little clip on Twitter when, you know, Amazon was at $113 and it went down to $6 and everybody's asking him what's up. And he's like, look, I'm looking at our internal indicators and everything is up and to the right. The same thing is happening here. We've done more grants to key infrastructure, technologies that are going to build this ecosystem. And most importantly, and this is in my opinion, the thread that we continue to ask ourselves, are these use cases oftentimes, how often are they solving real world problems? And because at the end of the day, it's those workloads running on Hedera and that stickiness and the applicability of them in solving real world problems, real use cases that despite, you know, any kind of meltdown, those things are going to continue to exist. And that's what I'm proud of. And I think we're doing that and we'll continue to do that.
Well, Shane, you just knocked out about 3 of the questions on my list. So it's good that we're getting people popping up here with questions. And we'll go with, is it Enoch Kaz? Enoch Kaz. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but if you want to come on up and speak.
Thank you so much. Not butchering it at all. That is perfect pronunciation. I'm really happy to have found this space. Grateful to be in here with all of you. eternally bullish on HBAR. I don't care how bearish the market looks. I feel like this is absolutely fantastic. I was introduced to the hash graph through the Access platform, and I am in every space that I step into. When people ask what blockchain I'm using, I say I'm going for Hedera instead of a blockchain, because this is just the best from everything I've seen. And I just would love to confirm with all of you who are the leadership of HBAR some of the things that I've heard through the grapevine. And also, I have a couple of questions in terms of where everything's going, specifically in regards to a project I'm working on. So the things that make me most excited are seeing the 150,000 transactions per second at first layer. And also I've seen and heard that HBAR has a 1 terabyte token capacity. And I just wanted to confirm that, because I'm working on building a Unreal Engine 5 based metaverse, and to have that level of a token capacity would make the graphics quality pure Ready Player One. So that's the confirmation questions, but also in terms of the direction that everything's going. I'm curious in terms of, I know there's no definitive numbers that can be given for a timeline, because everything's always flexible and fluctuating. However, I would very much love to hear what the team's thoughts are in regards to the growth of blockchain agnostic capabilities. So I would be able to build my world out on HBAR and allow a marketplace that is interoperable with Voxel, with Ether, with Polygon, with Solana, whatever people are minting on. If someone has an avatar from the Metaverse or from the Snoopverse, for them to be able to bridge it over into the world that I've built on HBAR, and then allow greater interactivity within the entire metaverse. So just curious about the potential for the development of that within the next couple of years.
All right. Well, this might be a good one for Don or Alex.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks so much for the question. So I'll answer in order, and to remind myself, the transaction volume, the state size, and then the kind of direction around interoperability and development tools questions. So first, from a transaction volume perspective, what we've seen since the network launch is its ability to sustain 10,000 transactions per second for many of the high throughput transaction types like consensus service, messages, HBAR transfers, token transfers, so on and so forth. So it's certainly something that we see as currently scaled, as well as having a path to that additional scale. So I think you may have been referencing some of the initial performance numbers in the original Hashgraph white paper, indicating just where the network could go. And those contributors to the Hedera network, I know, are very focused on making that a reality. So I think we'll expect to see that continue to improve. Now, regarding your question on the 1 terabyte piece, I think that might have been a bit of a maybe mischaracterization where you heard it from. So let me just kind of take a step back. The network as a whole has an aggregate state, and different entities on the network, whether you're creating an account, a token, a contract, or a file, consume that state. And that state is finite, but that's where you benefit from things like mirror nodes to help scale storage. That being said, often the entities like a token, really both from a network perspective, but also a developer experience perspective, should be optimized to have as little on-chain as possible. So I wouldn't, ever want to run complex graphics or rendering applications on-chain. But what that means is it can be easy to integrate, kind of to your third question, with many existing systems to interact with those tokens, whether that's triggering a transfer, an atomic swap, or even a creation event, maybe from a game. And that's on your last question. Really what we're seeing is more and more different both, existing enterprise solutions, developer SDKs, as well as tooling in things like gaming are starting to emerge in the ecosystem. Ubisoft is a new council member, and they certainly are interested in helping to expand the metaverse, for lack of a better word, of developers and applications and games that can interact with Hedera. So I very much expect that to continue.
All right. So the next one we have up on our list, and I can't see your full. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I think just if I can add on the interoperability part, we work closely. I work closely with Elaine and the Crypto Economy Fund on bridging solutions, and we've provided several grants now to bridging solutions that either incorporate NFT functionality or focus specifically on NFTs. So in terms of that use case of, will users be able to bring their NFTs from other networks over to Hedera, then yes, that's definitely the case. And those are features that are coming online soon. And then I think that's one side to interoperability. The other side is being able to have a wallet that can hold multiple assets across different chains and be able to connect them to your metaverse application. And that's something we're also looking to engage with more wallets and more kind of connectivity pieces in order to provide that ease of access and interaction with different assets.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, Viv, sorry.
Sorry, and if I could add a third aspect to that, it's not just the direct services, it's also the ancillary services. We've given grants and we're working with multiple players who are looking to provide things like DNS resolution for Web3 or porting between Web2 and Web3 in terms of address resolution to be able to send assets interchain without having to know specific account IDs and the like on both chains.
Thank you all for your wonderful responses. Appreciate you. And I'll hand over the mic.
All right. Well, we'll go. I can't see your full name, but it looks like Liang Shi, and it has a little guy there on your avatar holding a planet.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you. I was wondering. A few days ago, there is an announcement from Lehman. It's basically saying that the Hedera team. I don't understand exactly. Please explain it for detail if you could. They say that the Hedera team has been decentralized, or some people say dismissed. I don't know how to understand this. Can you explain? What happened?
I'll start off here, and I'm sure I'll go ahead, Don. I'll let you take it.
Yeah, sounds good. So I think one of the visions of the ecosystem around Hedera is that it would be, truly decentralized in terms of its governance, but also contributions to the network and broader ecosystem. So our organization, the HBAR Foundation, has been independent of Hedera since our launch in terms of helping to provide support into the ecosystem. Now, the announcement I believe you're alluding to is a new organization, Swirlds Labs, was stood up, which is really where many of the developers who are contributing core software to the network now work. And so we'll expect to see Swirlds Labs as a core driver of new features into the Hedera network. But that network is both decentralized in its governance and open in its contribution. And we expect many of those multiple parties, other council members, other development shops to make contributions themselves as well. But yes, as a result, many of the previous employees at Hedera, especially on the engineering and product side, have moved to Swirlds Labs.
All right. So moving on, DeAndre, would you like to come up and ask your question? Next in line.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. So I have a question for the HBAR Foundation as a whole. In the future, do you think that there would be like a HBAR Foundation DAO where people can have HBAR tokens as like governance tokens and vote on proposals and grants? I don't know if this question has been asked before, but I was just curious.
It's a great question. It's one that we have discussed internally. And I think if you use the analogy crawl, walk, run, we're in that, crawl, run kind of, or walk, run kind of mindset right now, where we're trying to establish the proper way to make grants, to set up. There's a lot of infrastructure required to do that, a lot of legal infrastructure that I won't go into detail here, but just making sure that you're doing it in the proper jurisdictions, et cetera. And so at the end of the day, we thought about, could there be, a foundation DAO set up where, for a certain level of grants, the community votes on them and you get a certain tokens. It's certainly been discussed, but, in all honesty, it's not something that we've put meaningful effort behind to date.
All right, good question. I know Don's discussed that in the past as well. And I see it's Brandon next on the list. Come on up.
How's it going, everybody? It's awesome to see these spaces happening. And as most of you know, I talk about the news, and the amount of news coming out just from the HBAR Foundation is crazy these days. I feel like I can't keep up, which is a really good feeling. Basically, what my question is about is the NFT space, and more specifically, smaller indie artists and creators that are kind of like, one-person teams maybe. So most people are familiar, Lehman and Mance kind of compare NFTs to what email was for the internet. Lots of people get into crypto and DLTs because NFTs are just really cool. And it's also a growing economy on Hedera. I mean, we've all kind of been blown away about the activity, the artwork and utility coming out of the NFT space from, again, these like really tiny bootstrap teams. And I think they've really bolstered a lot of activity on the network. I work with a bunch of projects. I have my own project, Pixel Rug. And I mean, minting on Hedera has opened up a whole new world, just coming from a background of traditional artists and being in a band and stuff. So it's important. And it was awesome to see news from the HBAR Foundation about support for hash access, and just starting to see the HBAR Foundation engage a little more directly with the NFT space. But my question was actually something I spoke with Don recently about. But I wanted to open it up to everybody at the foundation, which is kind of besides grants for NFT marketplaces and platforms, how does the role of indie NFT artists and creators, again, kind of like these one-person, two-person teams, fit into the HBAR Foundation strategy? And how does the foundation plan to engage deeper in the NFT space in regards to these indie creators? I think a lot of small creators are curious and also excited to see the HBAR Foundation starting to pay attention to this space at a bit of a lower level. So just curious, and thanks again for hosting this space.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I was
Don.
going to add 2 cents, and then maybe I'll pass it to Alex. I think, we too are very excited by the level of organic growth that's happening, particularly out of the NFT community, largely because existing creators and builders are showing how easy it is to integrate with and launch on the Hedera network. I think we probably have 2 core drivers, especially in those creator-heavy spaces. One is that we want to provide support by default, whether it's an introduction to a project that can help launch your token, a wallet that can show it, a marketplace that can list it. We want to make sure that we're giving a path to success regardless of who we're talking to, or if it ends up even being tied to a grant. And then second is when we're thinking about how we want to be vocal in marketing the ecosystem, we want it to be just that, marketing the ecosystem. So for instance, at NFTLA, a conference a few weeks ago, we were really centered on showcasing existing creator projects that are existing on Hedera today. And we found that resonates very well in external promotion and messaging because it most importantly is showing the value of the ecosystem. But maybe I'll pause there for Alex to take it from there.
I think today's been really great timing in terms of being able to celebrate the grant we've provided hash access, and so soon after they announced the fantastic launch of their secondary marketplace. And what I can say is that all the communities of favorite names you should be seeing announcements coming out around support from the foundation for them, because we are in talks with all of the great infrastructure pieces and marketplaces, and providing them the support that they've reached out to get. And really, it has been incredible to watch the Hedera community evolve and the tooling that's being built in close collaboration with different artists. So yeah, huge congratulations to everyone in the space, and definitely you'll be seeing that support coming out in the next few months. It does take in the next few weeks. It does take time to kind of get through these grants at the moment, but we're really crafting long-term relationships with these marketplaces as well. And on that note, I do think it's important to have the strong relationship with the marketplaces, because they are seeing really the activity and the action on the network. And we also want to, as Don says, provide support to individual artists and indies, but we really want to be building relationships with the marketplaces to understand what they're seeing on the core network and within the community, which projects they're seeing do well, succeed and fail, and why both of those scenarios might be the case. And even beyond that, we're seeing much smaller projects approach us to do kind of experimental sort of NFT community pieces or projects on the network, just really trying to push the Hedera and Hashgraph technology in different directions. And we do have a quicker, sort of smaller grant process to be able to quickly analyze and support those projects too. But as Don says, it's not just about providing grants. It is really about capturing inbound interest into Hedera and partnering them with the right wallets, the right sort of ecosystem, either business or technical players, and helping their creativity being unleashed within our ecosystem.
I would just add that, just real quick, I would just add that, in addition to the things that Don and Alex said, I think part of our job is also to bring awareness to this growing, accelerating ecosystem on top of Hedera. So when we think about growing the awareness of what we're doing, means we need to market, we need to, shout it from the mountaintops. So you're going to see at NFT NYC a significant presence by Hedera and the HBAR Foundation in Times Square, in the venue, etc., because we're going to amplify what is being built, what you guys are doing, regardless of size of team, on the network, and bringing that awareness, and making sure we've got the right integrations should certainly continue to accelerate, this activity.
All right, good stuff. And shout out to Hash Access. They have a great platform going there. Creamies, you are up next.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Welcome.
So my question, hello. Can you hear me? Hello. So my question So my question goes kind of off what Brandon just spoke about. So we are building gaming for web-based games, and we're tokenizing it as well. So my question is, realistically, I'm looking on your website, and I have been looking on your website. What you guys have is crypto economy fund, metaverse fund, maybe. But realistically, how do smaller projects get help, even not just grants, but help from you guys? What do we fall under, right? Because we do expect to bring more traffic to the network, and our goal is to build much more games in the future. But we are starting with very simple games in the beginning. And I also have another question as far as your form, because you guys asked for a LinkedIn profile. What goes on as far as how you make the selections for support?
Yeah, maybe I'll take the second question, and then Alex, maybe you can talk about some of the opportunities in gaming. Firstly, I think we recognize that we can't get to every application as quickly as we can. Ultimately, that's because we want to get every application that thorough review and fair shake when working with projects, so that the support is tailored, whether you're a big enterprise or a project that's just starting. The form is designed to help accelerate that by capturing information which helps us to understand the project, the team, the vision, and really is meant to be there for you to drop in whatever information you think helps to make the case. But we do aim to get as expedient responses as possible, despite a very, 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 very large pipeline of interested parties. overall, we look to those core benefits to the ecosystem as what drives our decisions. Is it going to create a new tool? Is it going to drive new transaction volume? Is it going to result in new accounts, TVL, et cetera? All of that's kind of outlined as some of our core KPIs as well in our 2022 blog and some of the other content we've released. But maybe I'll pass it there to Alex on the metaverse side.
Yeah, I think just picking up on that point about the applications, it certainly helps us when we're reviewing the applications coming in through the website, when there's a big focus on what the value is to the Hedera network. And that's ultimately what I feel we're doing at the Metaverse Fund, is really to drive core KPIs for Hedera around the number of users being brought to the network, and also the number of NFTs and the value being transacted and created on the Hedera network. So being able to look at those applications and quickly be able to identify those components, whether they be network activity or network infrastructure, is really, really helpful for our team, kind of filtering through those applications and getting them in the hands of the right people. And in terms of the hands of the right people, we want to build out the BD team so it's not just processing grant applications and bouncing back and forth questions on those. It is about identifying where the project can best fit within the Hedera ecosystem and quickly partnering them up and making introductions to what really is a very expansive ecosystem of applications and projects which is emerging on Hedera. So if you're an artist, you do want to find out who's going to be the technical partner, the infrastructure ecosystem to handhold you into the minting space. You want to know which is the marketplace which fits your project best. And then if you're a technical person, you're looking for the creatives, or you're looking for the other technical partners who can support you on your journey. And that's where I feel that consultative element is where I feel the business development team and the foundation is really kind of functioning at its highest when we do that well. Hopefully that provides some additional answer to your question.
Creamies, thank you for your question. Next one, HBAR Whalen, come on up.
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting this. So I got two questions. One of them is, there is something on the Ethereum chain that is called ENS. It's like mapping wallet addresses to actual wallet names, I guess. Is there something similar that is being built on Hedera like that? And the next question is, do you anticipate any enterprise level applications to be released during this market condition? And if so, what kind of outcomes do you think will happen?
I could take this one. The short answer is yes. We have multiple projects actually to provide ENS-like services. So some are focusing primarily on the Hedera ecosystem, and some are operating more as a layer 0, which should provide some bridging elements between both Hedera and other L1s. So you might potentially wonder why we would bet on multiple ENS style or resolver style solutions for Hedera, because it also makes our network more robust, and it means that the service offerings that we provide on an infrastructure level are a lot more, accessible overall and resilient. The second question, in terms of, if I can just play that back to you, do we expect to see enterprise use cases launching under these conditions? I think there are multiple aspects to unpack here. You could be talking about the volatility in the price of HBAR, and in that sense, that's traditionally not something that enterprises would be overly comfortable with. So in order to mitigate that, we actually have some projects in the pipeline that are very exciting, that allow smoothing of this volatility, which is perfect for managing future cash flow predictions and the like for enterprise use cases. The other thing that enterprises also need, probably out of the box, if you will, which more retail-oriented startups don't, are things like regulatory reporting, monitoring services, and all the ancillary resiliency type of non-functionals, if you will. And we are also working with some startup founders there to provide such services, both to the ecosystem as services and also directly on the protocol and service level for the Hedera L1.
Nice.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could just provide a bit more context, both regards to kind of the market conditions right now and kind of what we see coming down the pipeline. I think one thing to keep note of is the fact that, while the price activity and kind of financial applications on crypto are, definitely a large use case for, layer one networks, right? I think you could argue that, speculation and trading are probably some of the use cases that people tend to gravitate more towards. And, seem to be some of the early use cases that exist within our industry. I think the key point is that at its bare level, the Hedera network is a technology, right? It's a ledger technology that can be used to build multiple different things. And I think already within Hedera, you see not segmentation, but you see stratification on the consensus layer and also the token layer. And so when it comes to building, of course, while kind of market conditions do impact do influence it, I think what you've seen historically in the crypto market is that bear markets tend to be when people tend to build, right? So 2 years or weathering a bear market ultimately leads to an explosion of innovation as we move out of that bear market, right? It was the same in 2020. It was the same, right before that, right? I think in March of 2020, I remember right as California was going into COVID lockdown, I think the price of Bitcoin was like 5K. And I think it's easy to forget how quickly these cycles, or I guess how quickly time flies, how short or long these cycles are. But if you zoom out, even the March 2020 downturn, wasn't as significant as the 2018 kind of price crash as well. And so I think if you look at the market cycle and you continue to see where the innovation and when the innovation is happening, they come after bear markets, which is when people build. So I think, you need to, it's good to abstract out that crypto networks are purely tech layers that people can build on, whether it's on financial instruments or financial-based applications, or more kind of infrastructural developments on the consensus layer. So to that end, I think my point is, we do anticipate other use cases, whether they're enterprise, whether they're from the governing council, or whether they're even financial, come out in the market in the next half a year.
Yeah, and the reason why we see people struggling or entities struggling to keep up during the run-ups is because they have so many additional customers. Their platforms are struggling to keep up, and they can't really build during that time. They're just dealing with those things as they come. But during the bear times, when they have less customers, they've already built up all their infrastructure. They're able then to take some time and build. The next question we have up is for Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I was just, I'm a female founder for an adult entertainment platform for models to create their own NFTs and to sell their content for cryptocurrency. It's going to have social network features and a lot more. We're starting development in June, and we've got a team of 4, and we've applied for the female grant as a female founder. Sorry. And was wondering if the foundation is interested in funding this types of projects from this industry. I'm basically asking if there's any limitations on giving out grants to certain industries, such as the adult entertainment industry.
This one might be best for Shane.
Yeah, so to date we haven't had this question and haven't necessarily thought about it. To be honest with you. So, but if I'm off the cuff, I would say we're typically not inclined.
All right. As Don mentioned earlier, there's a really deep pipeline. We're dealing with a lot of applicants at this time. But yeah, so we don't have any more questions from the community right now. So if you want to come up, just go ahead and request to speak. In the meantime, I have another question. This one came from Telegram, and this was coming from a grantee or a potential grantee. And what they were asking is there any way, and there's probably two parts to this question, can the foundation put applicants in touch with governing council members? And really what they were asking is DLA Piper for legal assistance. So I guess the one thing is there discussions with the general council members? If we have good ideas and things like that, can we get in touch with the governing council members? And then is there the potential for assistance as far as in the legal realm? Is there the potential for legal assistance coming from the HBAR Foundation? Shane, I'm going to probably have to kick this one to you again.
All right. So unfortunately, I was distracted, so I didn't hear the full. All I heard was the last legal bit. So can you restate the question?
Sure. So the first part of this question is essentially asking, can the foundation get them in touch with general counsel, governing council members? And the second part is, can the foundation put grantees in touch with people to give them legal assistance?
Great question. I don't know that we've had the legal assistance question in particular. I know we've got, a small legal department. Let me get back to you on that, because we haven't had that question directly. Though we do talk about three things that we provide support on, right? Financial, technical, and marketing support. We haven't made legal one of those elements, but I could see, why someone might need that in setting up whatever company, et cetera, that they might be building related to their project. So that's the first. And what was the other question, Brandon?
I guess, do we have communication with the governing council members? Yes.
Yeah, with the governing council members. So there hasn't been a direct line to governing council members for a lot of reasons. One, it's a big ecosystem and it's growing, and these folks are busy running their own businesses oftentimes. So with that being said, there have been a few that have said, hey, look, would love to, talk to the community, et cetera. But that's been few and far between. I think most of them have really been focused on running their business, being a part of and watching what's happening in the ecosystem, as opposed to engaging. I don't want to say no, because, I haven't been dealing with the governing council as long as, say, Mance and Lehman have been. So there may be precedent there that I'm simply not aware of. Don's been around the ecosystem longer than me. Don, I don't necessarily want to put you on the spot, but maybe you have a different perspective or more history here than I do.
I think Don may have had to leave, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, so I don't know. And I would just say, maybe, to the extent that there is interest, make that interest known to us, and we can take it in a one-off to see whether or not, and, what's the purpose, what would be the goal of the interaction, and who specifically would you want to chat with. I don't necessarily want us to be a broker to every governing council member, but, maybe that's something that we could consider.
I can chime in here.
Sure, if the shoe fits, right?
Yeah, I can chime in.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah.
We've definitely introduced grant recipients or connected other members of the ecosystem to, other players as well, whether they're governing council members, other project teams. As the foundation, we definitely act as a connective layer between the different projects. And so, as it makes sense, or as we think it's beneficial, or as we think it's going to grow the ecosystem, we absolutely make those connections and introductions. Specifically with regard to kind of like legal connectivity or legal resources, I think, maybe this wasn't the question, but one thing that we do see is, of course, grant recipients looking for support on like legal side, or kind of some of the operational costs. I think that's something that we're trying to explore from an accelerator perspective to see how we can provide more operational based support to the different teams that might go beyond or extend a little bit beyond the foundation's remit, but that we definitely understand is important to individual project teams.
All right, thank you, Elaine. So the next one we have up is James Invest Well. Come on up.
Hey, yeah, there. The question I had is, me and a friend of mine, she's a female founder, made a product that is for banking institutions. She came from the banking world to eradicate people from doing merger and acquisitions and like real estate portfolio management in Excel, which is just what it does. And so I guess my question is, we're at this point where we're not really worried about raise. I think the thing that's been going through my mind is the encryption, and bring a level of confidence, because these deals are very private, and you don't want other people to find out about it, and you want to be able to send this data in a way that instills confidence. I mean, it seems, I'm an HBAR owner just for a lot of different reasons, but for us, it's kind of like, we could go down this path, and we have kind of two competing things where we're going to market, and at the same time, I really believe in building on top of something like this. So I know others are running into this as startups. What is the best path, just to fill out a form and trying to get some guidance on, what would we do from a development side? Because I think we're also thinking, well, if we do this, we need to add additional money for funding, unless we bootstrap that portion. Just looking for advice.
Well, to start off, go ahead, Shane.
Just real quick. Yeah, I just have a question, a clarifying question. So, when you think about M&A, there are applications today, data rooms, right, that are super private. You log into, et cetera. It's got all kinds of data, from the articles of incorporation to P&L and to employee salary, right, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Just help me understand why you think DLT would be required for this use case above and beyond, traditional technologies today.
Yeah, so I think we're thinking of having the actual, after the deal is kind of automated, so we're going from, removing modeling completely. And the idea is that, if you don't have to do modeling in Excel and it's just done, and then you can actually do the deal and have that commit happen over a network. It just seems like a way of bringing a level of security that is otherwise just, is it necessary? I don't know. I think yes, in some ways, just because, it just brings a level of confidence to transactions. And so I just didn't know.
And when you say modeling, do you mean like DCF modeling for purchase price?
Yeah, it's like, when you buy, if you're wanting to buy like 10 high rises and you're trying to think about doing that, or you're wanting to do a merger and acquisition of property, like those things take a very long time. But on top of that, it's like after the deal is figured out, making a transaction itself over the network. It just seemed like a beneficial and kind of thing to potentially look at.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thanks for those questions. Brandon, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this probably would fall under the purview of what was our developer advocates, or the developer advocates for Hedera. Now, that's probably going to fall under Swirlds Labs now. So we'll try to get you some information as far as how to contact them. Any other leadership with the HBAR Foundation, if you guys want to answer it, that's fine. But I think we'll probably leave it at that. I think they would probably be a better fit for encryption and things along those lines.
Okay.
I was going to say, or we can connect after this and I can help steer you in the right direction.
Great. Do I just write it? You just sent me something over Twitter. Was that?
Yeah, that worked. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, James. Next one, let's go with Dimitri. Come on up. All right. Fabiano, why don't you come on up?
Hey, guys. Nice to meet you. This is Fabiano from Brazil. So my question related to the HBAR Foundation is if there is any type of strategy related to the success of the foundation from an analytical perspective, meaning do we have any types of KPIs to measure the success that we are having or not, right? Has that been defined? Do you have any plans to do that? Since I have that background, this is something that I'm curious to see how you guys are handling this portion of the business?
Good question. The answer is yes. In fact, there's a blog post specifically on our operating model and our KPIs. So the things that we're looking at today are, how do we rank on CoinMarketCap? So, where is that relative to others? Number one. Number two, because we had a goal when we started the foundation of where we would be at a certain time period. Number two, it's transactions per second and those increasing. Number three is the amount and number of accounts created. At the same time, we did not have any TVL measure of TVL. We do now, thanks to Stater Labs and so many other, DEXs that are going to be coming live, et cetera, on Hedera. And then what we're doing right now is breaking that down into individual fund level KPIs. But those are the foundation level KPIs today.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome.
All right, HBAR Legionnaire, if you want to give it another shot.
Yeah, sorry about that, Brandon. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're a little garbled, but go ahead. I think we can get your question.
Okay. So I'm not sure if this relates to the foundation or another entity regarding Hedera. But I listened to a broadcast on the radio the other day, and I heard of it's a litter lotto, it's called. Anyways, I thought immediately how Hedera could help this project that they're doing. It's already a global thing. But anyway, is there a way that, because I tried to reach out with them, but I'm just some Joe Blow on the planet. Is there an area, sorry, it's my truck, where I could point them towards that maybe someone within the foundation or anything could maybe give them some information regarding, I don't know, like some sort of intermediary that they can get some information on how it could expand their existing business.
All right. Anybody from the team want to take this one?
Well, I would just say that I would just send them to either hedera.com or hbarfoundation.org for some more information. There's also a generic, mailbox and email address there to, send information to that, we can kind of parse through. I don't know enough about what I think you said litter lotto is, but, that would be my recommendation.
All right. Well, thank you, HBAR Legionnaire. Zepsi, we haven't been able to get to too many of the Twitter questions, so do you want to bring one of those up?
Sure. So one of most recently we've obviously seen this sort of move from Manson Lehman and the marketing team at Hedera over to Swirls. And when quite a big change like this happens, there's obviously a bit of uncertainty. People are a bit confused about sort of what's going on. And really the question was, is there an avenue of communication between, say, the HBAR Foundation and Swirls now that, a lot of the marketing team from Hedera have moved to Swirls? Is there that line of communication between the two parties? And is that a relationship that you want to strengthen at all?
That's an excellent question. And so the answer is yes. There has been, even though the HBAR Foundation from the beginning has been, an independent organization, we have been collaborating with Hedera, not as closely as we could be. And so as of, the move over to Swirls Labs, Christian and Min and I, along with Donald, have gotten together to begin, kind of coalescing and bringing together our plans, our budgets, so that we can, again, amplify the messages in the market. Right now, we're both at the same shows and, on. And we feel like in many ways, we're diluting our dollars to build this ecosystem. And so we're getting on the same page. There are several programs, several projects that are kicking off right now in light of this change that I think you're going to see significant strengthening at permissionless, at consensus. You're going to see it at, like I said, at early on at NFT NYC, where, we're going to be buying media in Times Square and you're going to see a lot more. And I think it should be encouraging to many of you who, have said, hey, why can't we just, be a lot more loud and proud around what it is that we're doing. That takes, work on the back end. And I think we've got, the resources now to do that, the collaboration and willingness to be able to do that. And I think we see that our objective is to grow this developer community. The HBAR Foundation's mission, right, is to grow this ecosystem by, giving grants to developers, entrepreneurs, creators, etc. But all in all, we simply have to grow this community. And so, I think to give you another example of collaboration, Hedera did the hackathon. There's 2,300 developers in the hackathon. That's up from, I think, 600 or 700 from the last hackathon, and we at the HBAR Foundation, gave the bounty. We delivered the bounty, in support of that hackathon. You're just going to see more and more of that type of collaboration.
All right. Well, we are getting toward the top of the hour. If anybody has more questions, you can always visit us at our Telegram channel. We're going to try to do more of these. We're going to try to do these pretty much monthly. We're also going to try to set up office hours on Telegram and any other ways you guys want to try to get in communication with the HBAR Foundation. But as we close it out here, and I'm sorry if we didn't get it to anybody's questions, as was mentioned, it's a little bit brutal in the crypto markets right now and all risk assets at this point. And it's difficult to build any business. It's difficult to especially build in the DLT space. Shane, do you have any words of encouragement for those that are seeing some challenges in the Hedera ecosystem as we leave?
Yeah, listen, I am incredibly encouraged by what we're doing, what we're building, what you guys are building and are a part of. I am not concerned one bit. In fact, if you look at, and I think Elaine kind of mentioned it, you look at historical precedent of all kinds of markets, technology waves, etc. This is going to happen. This won't be the last time it happens. And so you've got to get back to basics when those things are happening, asking yourself, for us particularly, are we making the right investments in the right projects that are solving real world problems? And the answer is yes. You've seen it come out, as we've continued to be very noisy around all the grants that we're making. We're not slowing down. I think this is, as Elaine said it well, this is the time to build. We're continuing to accelerate. And I believe on the other side of this, we're going to emerge much, much stronger. So thank you all for what you're doing and for your questions and attending and what you do in the community. And, I certainly appreciate all that you're doing and hope that you appreciate the things that we're doing.
All right. Thank you very much, Shane. And like he said, thank you guys so much for coming on and asking your questions. And we'll try to do this again as soon as we can. Thanks again.